Hey, everybody. For those just joining, we're just giving people a minute or two to come on to the Zoom broadcast, and we'll get started with the program in just a minute or two. Good afternoon, everybody. If you're joining us live or watching us in recorded format later on, thanks again so much for joining us. Welcome to your library. I'm David Leonard, president of the Boston Public Library, and it's my pleasure to be hosting this program today, co-hosting and co-moderating with my colleague, Chris Jacobs, who you'll meet and see in a minute. But we are both celebrating the winners of the Teen Music Maker Showdown, as well as hosting today's panel, the Teen Music Maker Perspective. And we'll run about 75 to 90 minutes in total. And it is my pleasure to welcome our guests, and I'll get to the guests in just one second, but just a little housekeeping to get us started. We are broadcasting on Zoom, and your video and audio will remain muted throughout the program. The live transcript button is working, so if you want to see captions, you can toggle that on and off. Apologies in advance if it doesn't get all of our words just quite right, but that's one of the advantages of technology. We will be recording the program and we'll share it on our various channels a bit later on. And so I would like to welcome on board two of my colleagues, and that is Chris Jacobs, who I just mentioned. Chris and I will be co-moderating, co-hosting throughout the next 75 to 90 minutes. I'm also going to welcome Ritse, who is our youth librarian from the Boston Public Library Lower Mills. He's one of our official panelists today and one of the program coordinators. Also, we have three special guests who are also part of the program team. Shaydez, who is an artist development director from the Hip Hop Transformation, or THHT, I think is how we say that. And they're joined by David Lightfoot Bellow, an audio engineer also from THHT, and Tony Hamui, who is a record producer and a BPL mentor. So welcome to all of you. Chris, would you like to introduce our teen participants?
Yes, which is not to say that our special guests are any less special, but we have four extra special guests, I would argue, at today's panel. And in fact, all three of our top winners, well, all four of our top winners, if you consider that one of our winners is in fact a duo. And it is my great pleasure to introduce you guys to them. I'll start with the duo, otherwise known as the Loop. We have Zaria Starr and Marcia Bibbins, and we're very happy to have them. They both hail from Dorchester. We also have Jess Nayeli, who hails from Chelsea, who goes by Nayeli on her artist profile, I'll say. And last but certainly not least, we have hailing from Brookline, Janie Leslie, and together these four amazingly talented teens constitute our top 3 winners as judged actually by at least 5 people who are on this panel, in addition to 7 other people from the local sort of music mentor community. So we're very, very excited to have them. And the structure for today will sort of flip back and forth between talking about the event itself as understood by the adult special panelists, and also it will then swerve over to the teen extra special panelists.
Thanks, Chris, for doing the introductions there. I think we at the library know that we can only be successful when we're in partnership with really cool other leaders who are doing their part to really reach out to teenagers and young people. And we know this works when we meet people just simply where they're at and around their interests. And that's really what I think we're pretty proud of in this program. So Chris, I think you've got a 2 or 3 minute video to get us started and give our viewers and people who are participating and watching a sense of what this program was that the team was able to bring together.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. So I'm going to be sharing a quick sort of trailer kind of debrief on what actually went down in some capacity. We ran a number of different events using our sort of socially connected Twitch channel. You're going to see clips from that featuring some of our wonderful adult panels. And just to make sure that we, have something nice for the ears as well, our 3 winning tracks as created by our teen winners will actually outline we'll give you the backing, the instrumentals that you need throughout. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen with everybody. I will make sure to share sound. All right, here we go.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Shaydez, and I'm about to break down all the steps you need to submit to the BPL and THHT Teen Music Maker Showdown.
Like you already said a lot, but do you have any more to say about that?
I just think it's like it's so fire when young people are killing it on this level, but also like to have exposure to an artist like as like a fan, and then to have it come through your competition. And I don't know if this was already said, but like I had no idea. Listening to tracks, we didn't have an artist name, we didn't have a track name, so I had no idea what I was listening to. But I just
This next song is a masterclass in simplicity. The elements are clear, it's concise, all the fat is trimmed down, their vision is clear, and the groove is way too real. Run it.
The grand prize winner of the contest, I'm gonna hand it over to Ritse.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Shaydez, and let me just start off by saying that this is such an honor to present everybody the #1 spot of the statewide Teen Music Maker Showdown. We appreciate every single submission. It was so hard to choose, so this was no easy feat, right? So for this coming in at #1, when we talk about a complete song, a seamless collaboration, radio ready.
Myself, but that song is an instant hit to me. I think it's amazing. To literally hear that on radio and runs at the end, the riffs he was doing, everything about it was just really awesome, and I really appreciate that record. And it stood out when I heard it the first time. And again, when you can resonate a place and time through like a song or an experience.
I am the greatest, I am amazing, I am a legend. Brown skin's a blessing, blessing. Come join the quest in love.
All right.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that gave us a little sense, just a flavor of what went on and what the results was, and here we are. So let's get started with the first part of our panel discussion, and let's bring Ritse back on. Ritse, you're on the team here at the Boston Public Library. Can you give us a little overview of what was the event that we just saw a clip from? What was the competition about? What was the program? Tell us what we just experienced.
That I can do. Thank you, David. So as you saw in the clip, we had a little taste of mostly from the finale of the contest where we did the announcements of who the winners were. But that was the conclusion of what was about a month-long process. So we put together to start in February, early February, and we came to that finale in early March. And there were really three main events that highlighted and were the landmarks of the contest. First, we had a kickoff in early February where we made the official announcement of how the contest was going to work, told everyone what the rules would be, how to submit, where to submit, who to submit to, and of course told them what the prizes would be. This of course was a contest only for teenagers and only teenagers in Massachusetts. So we did decide we wanted to make it statewide, so spread out a little further, though we were pleased that a lot, I think about the majority really of the submissions did end up from Boston. But for those teens, we were offering prizes for first, second, and third place as gift cards. I can't remember the exact amounts. I think it might have been 150 for first, 100 for second, 50 for third. And then in addition to that, promoting them on our social media platforms, especially our live streams that we do on Twitch, which we'll hear more about later, were a part of kind of the impetus of the whole program. But so the kickoff, we let everybody know about those things, as well as the commissions, which we'll hear more about as well. That was another part of the prizes. The top three winners were extended the opportunity to also produce an additional piece of music for the library. And so that's actually something that's still going on. So technically the contest, well, the program as a whole isn't really over yet. The showdown is still going on, still living on, and we are very excited to see the final results of these commissions when they come through. The second big event we had was a workshop on Zoom about midway through, where we gave the teens a chance to come in and work with some industry professionals from our major partner on this. So as you heard a little bit already, this was a big partnership between mostly the Boston Public Library and the Hip Hop Transformation. And they were generous to have some of their members give us some time and come on to just give advice to all the teens who needed it or wanted it about making beats, real nitty gritty details about working in a digital audio workstation, how to make those samples really pop the way that you want to. So we had a great time with that, and we're able to give some good advice to some of the kids who came through. And then, of course, the big finale was what we saw some clips of in the early March when we made the announcements, and we're actually able to partner with some more organizations as well. I can't remember exactly how many, but I think there was probably around 7 or 8 additional or total organizations who came to help with the announcements and to give a little information about what they did. Organizations that also work with teens, especially organizations that work with teens around music. So we were able to have what was really, especially during the pandemic, a amazing kind of communal celebration that really felt like we were bringing the community together and having a little bit of almost a party. I mean, the vibes were really amazing, really great. And the excitement, enthusiasm was infectious. So, I mean, you already saw a little bit of how that feeling went through. And I believe that's more or less.
Yeah, we got a thumbs up there from Chris a moment ago on getting those prize levels right. So well done. I'm going to throw this question to all of our adult panelists, but Ritse, you and indeed Chris, who's co-hosting, were also program participants here in helping run the show. So what roles did both of you play?
Right. So the two of us kind of took the lead on some of the organization in terms of how the events would look, where the platform would be, mostly on Twitch and then Zoom for the workshop, making sure we had the details of the submission guidelines and everything in accordance to what would be, best for the teens participating, as well as for us on our end, all the logistics of those sorts of things. Also putting together the promotional materials, working very closely with our communications department as well, who were amazing. From day one, they really came through for us in terms of the press release and getting us a few interviews as well, with the Boston Globe for one, WBZ radio for another. So they really helped spread the word a little farther. And then we, of course, had a lot of great things on our Instagram, Twitter, the social media, and coordinating with the hip hop transformation the whole time, making sure we were communicating with them, letting them know what our plans were, showing them everything, making sure it was all in accordance to what they would want to present as well.
So you're covering the traditional media channels, social media channels, and the modern media channels all at once. Awesome. Chris?
Absolutely. I do want to shout TWHT out in terms of, although we did a lot of the sort of functional operational work, they were really there every step of the way to kind of give us guidance on what things should look like and how they should sort of feel. And that was really invaluable in terms of we had a lot of the virtual space stuff covered because we have been doing a lot of practicing with our other virtual programming, but it was really great to have their support and their vision as artists themselves. Because as we know, well, some of us may know, and if you don't know, now, Red Shades is herself an artist. Lightfoot is a producer, David is a producer. And so they know this sort of business. In particular, given the fact that we attracted so many teams who were themselves either established artists, or emerging established artists, we really wanted to have an aesthetic that sort of matched and made them feel like they belonged, and that this was something that was appropriate for them. And that's something I don't think we could have done without. I just remember, and very specifically, there was a conversation with Red Shades. I think I know Ritse, you were there, and it was just like, Red was like laid it down, was like, keep it simple, straightforward, simple. And that's not my aesthetic. So I was like, let's tell them all the rules right up front. And she was like, no. It was just a really great feeling of teamwork and back and forth that we had.
Well, let's hear from Red and David then on this topic, and see if it matches up with what you've just told us. Red, David, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being a part of this whole phenomenon. So, what was it like, and what roles did you both play?
It was a blast through and through. It taught us a lot of event planning skills, a lot of team building and cross promotion with other organizations. But as Chris said, when it came to promotion, we like to put ourselves in the minds of the teens. And we know, and we remember being teens, that we don't like to read a bunch of information. And it's terrible because we're representing the Boston Public Library, but at the same time, they're kids. They want to know what is it, where, and when and how, and so that's what we sort of wanted to keep in mind, and it seemed to work. And so that we sort of played the role of getting the word out to the teams.
And as an artist yourself, was this fun, or is this a challenge, or is this work, or a little of all of the above to be doing this work with the teens?
It was a little bit of all of the above, and being an artist, that's why I was able to share some of my expertise with this, because it was sort of like being an artist, but we had tons. And so we wanted to promote this huge event. We had all original music, we had producers, we had singers, writers, but then we were also youth advocates too. So it was great to sort of, touch all those aspects.
Cool. David?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, Shaydez brought this to like the TWHT team as sort of like, yo, here's this opportunity. And all of us trust in Shaydez, because we're such a small group. So we kind of like, we very much are, just going along for the ride of what another person suggests and kind of seeing how things come to fruition. And this was like, what I thought was so unique about this experience, and what Shaydez was like said is kind of like encompasses everything. But like, what I thought was really unique about this experience was there was so much sort of contribution and inspiration from whatever is being said in whatever meeting. So like we could have an idea that sort of branches off of what Chris and Ritse would say, and then that would become something totally different and complete different pivot. And while Chris and like Ritse and BPL were definitely doing a lot of the technical logistics and things like that, it felt like a lot of the ideas just sort of came up from these meetings in a really collaborative fashion. And I think that was probably what I found to be so fruitful. And like Shaydez was saying, we do this all the time for our own teams. So to be able to sort of have like another perspective and being able to meet everybody on like all their different like requirements and what everybody would like to see was cool, especially, because we were in like the winter. So everybody was like super tired and like, like vitamin D depleted and all that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure.
And months deep into the pandemic at this point as well. So
right, exactly.
That's part of the reality of what we've been living through. Hey, let's bring Tony in as well and just get a little perspective from him on his role and being part of the program. Hey, Tony.
Hi there. So my role usually is as a BPL mentor, and I also, so in that role, I run a lot of workshops for music production, and I work with a lot of teens. So to be a guest judge in that program was incredible to me, especially to see how many teens in the area, how many local teens are just so talented and gifted. And I remember Chris sending the playlist of all the submissions, and it was like maybe like 50 or so, but it was like so much that I had to download them so that I can put them on a playlist so I could listen to them on my way to and from work. And like most of them were just so solid, and the fact that they came from Boston teens really blew me away.
Very cool. And, I think it seems like it was important to do this as part of the pandemic. I think this would be a very different event if it was held pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, but what was the significance? This is a question for all of you, really. What was the significance of being able to do this during the pandemic, during COVID-19? Hopefully that's mostly behind us now, but so a lot of parts of the world and country are not out of the woods yet, but nonetheless, here we are, and yet you managed to pull this incredible event off in the middle of all of that. Who wants to take this first?
Well, I guess I'll quickly say, as sort of like the very base of it, for me at least, kind of like what I was just alluding to earlier, it was like a nice like kind of checkpoint. And when I mean nice, I don't mean like we all were feeling really nice. I mean more, it was just like, it was an interesting intersection of where the pandemic was and sort of where we were as programs, BPL, TWHT, even Tony saying like, his own role with BPL and doing what like his, independent production work and all that stuff. And sort of having an opportunity to be like, yo, are you good? As a program, as a person, are your young people okay? And us being like, even being able to look kind of inwardly at your own programs and being able to have that as reference points, for me, I thought was really important. And yeah, that's kind of what I'll say about that.
I think for me, being that we were all affected in our own ways in the pandemic, I feel like oftentimes teens are overlooked. So for me, this big event was like, hey, we care about you. You're not forgotten. We know it's super hard to be engaged. I think a lot of us were all zoomed out by that point, but to have something, we chose not to do it a regular way. We said, we're going to be on Twitch. There's all these super fun, cool graphics. Bring your parents, bring your friends, bring everybody. So it's sort of
that event was reminiscent of an in-person event, believe it or not, as much as it could be. So I think it was a chance to highlight and spotlight some of the great talent with our younger creators.
Tony, you want to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think also, if anything, there were things about having that virtual event that couldn't have been possible doing it in person. Like around Boston, you have all these different hubs, physical locations where teens meet up to make music, and having it on Discord and Twitch, it eliminated kind of those like spatial constraints. And if anything, it brought this event to a platform that they're more comfortable with and more familiar with. And I think that led to such a massive turnout.
Very cool. Chris, I know we're going to bring some of the teenagers on in a minute or two. We don't want to leave them out of this conversation.
Definitely
I got
not.
more questions I can come back to in a bit, but David, sorry, you were going to say something there before
I was just going to quickly say, I think another thing that was really beneficial about doing this virtually are like prompts, and they're so important. It's something that we really relied on as a program for like kind of inspiring young people and getting young people to start like kind of stepping outside of their bounds. And I think that this was kind of like the ultimate prompt, right? And I think because it was virtual, that prompt, like Tony was saying, can reach so many more people because it's not confined to, if it's TWHT, that would have been straight Cambridge. You know what I'm saying? If it's Boston Public Library, it would have been straight Boston. And you probably wouldn't get any really outreach. So I think virtual was really beneficial in that way too.
Yeah, and we like our role statewide as well. We don't often get to capitalize on that with certain audiences, so it was really great to be able to reach beyond Boston for this particular occasion. Had you all worked with BPL before, or were you going, wait, what, BPL wants to do what with us? What was that experience like?
I guess I'll jump in. Yeah, I worked with BPL before about 3 years ago for a courtyard event, and it was beautiful. And I think it was just to showcase the artists in the community. But I didn't even know that there was a teen section. So it was kind of like I didn't work with BPL, not in this capacity. So this was great to see. And now I'm aware of the BPL team. So.
And maybe this is a way of getting the word out about not just what we have here at the Central Library in Copley Square in Boston, but across 25 locations in all of Boston, especially as we can now go back to these places that we've been missing for so long. And I love the fact that you just referenced the courtyard, and I'm sitting upstairs from the courtyard right now in this part of the building that was built in 1895. And here we are doing this modern, engaged online program at the same time. So we can be classic and modern just at the same time. David, any thoughts on working with BPL?
Oh yeah, I had not at all. Once again, Shaydez brought that sort of the TWHT table, and we're all like, hey, so yeah, I think David, to say your reaction was exactly what I had, which was like, BPL, like, all right, let's go, let's do it. So it was really cool. And once again, another thing that like, if it wasn't virtual, would we be doing this? You know what I'm saying? There's so many like sort of, factors like that I've been thinking about a lot. So.
Yeah. And Tony, Chris, Ritse, does it feel good to be able to bring this kind of programming alive for today's audience?
Oh yeah, I've been working with the BPL for years now. And I remember first starting out, and the teen center had just gotten all the keyboards, but there really wasn't like none of the teens knew like that they could go there and start making music. So to see it go from there to this like statewide event is incredible to me.
And I will add on to that what Tony said. It was it wasn't a last minute decision to make it statewide, but I remember the moment, and it was something where I remember the conversation we were having, and I think Red, we kind of left it into your hands, like, do we do this? Do we go statewide? And it was really, the answer was, why not? We had this unprecedented opportunity to kind of provide reach to audiences, and that I remember being really exciting, just because that could be something that all of these teens that are here can claim at the end of the day. It's not just Boston, it's not just Cambridge, it's not just their media group, but every teen in the state has had an opportunity to submit 3 tracks to this, and that ethos and that feeling of just gravity, I think, really drove us to take every bit of this really seriously. And that's something I'll just say in general, that's something that I know was part of BPL's focus, is really wanting to make sure that this event got treated with the utmost seriousness in terms of support, in terms of making sure that everything was attended to. And I think what was wonderful, and Tony was noting this earlier, was just, understanding that part of that seriousness was an effort to make sure that the teens who participated felt taken seriously, that they felt like real artists the minute that they considered submitting to this. And that being said, we had no idea the quality that was going to come through. And when it did, boy, were we happy that we had taken those steps to really make sure that this program felt like it was geared towards artists. We had made sure that artists were, for lack of a better term, sort of lining the Twitch walls, that they knew that this was being run by artists. As much as Ritse and I are music lovers, Ritse has dabbled himself, we're not in the business, we're not artists ourselves in the official sense or in the professional sense. And it was just such a great coalescence of, or a great kismet of like time and place that we were able to connect in this way.
And Ritse?
Yeah, I would say the same as others have said. Definitely that feeling of community was the piece of it that really hit me the hardest especially during that finale. It was almost like, that hour and a half was really elevated to this pure elation with seeing the chat of all these people talking together about the music, getting so excited, seeing the artists themselves, the teen artists in there, seeing people reacting to their songs, and they didn't know necessarily that their song was going to be, or at least what place their song was going to have. So the excitement they had when they found out, oh, mine was, 5th place, mine was 1st place, any place at all. And being able to have that live in front of us and interacting with that in the middle of the pandemic was really, a bright spot in what, for a lot of folks was definitely a tough time. So it really was that that beautiful community caregiving with each other.
I do have a few more logistical questions I'm going to save till the end. Chris, this has been a great conversation so far, but I kind of want to hear from the teen artists that we have lined up as well, and make sure that what you all are telling me, that's been their experience as well. I trust you all, but I want to hear from them too. So, Chris, would you want to bring on Zaria, Marcia, Nayeli, and Jamie?
Absolutely, guys. We're ready for you, your long last BPL debut, even though I'm sure you've had quite a few listens here at BPL thus far. Just to make sure that you guys know, who might be listening to this as a recording or watching from home, or maybe from wherever you're working, all of the tracks of our teen music makers are available on our YouTube channel and have been since the contest. In particular, we've been using these top 3 artists' tracks in quite a few of our different programs, whether they are virtual programs on Twitch or other videos that we're making. As part of the contest, we asked for the permission to use some of these teen-submitted tracks and gain them exposure in whatever capacities we could. And they have been, they've really humbled us in being so generous has to share their music and then give us permission to share it again and again with everybody who visits the library, participates in a virtual program, et cetera, et cetera. So just a preliminary round of applause to the 4 of you guys today for making it to the tippy top. That being said, we did have 45 artists in total come to that contest, but you guys were the standout crew. My first question really kind of dials back to, we're in the thick of COVID. I'm assuming you guys are, I don't want to say struggling, because I've met you guys, I've talked to you, and none of you guys feel like you would have struggled. You guys just make it seem so easy. But I imagine that COVID is was not a fantastic time for anybody. You participated in this program, and I know that the people who are watching this are curious as to 2 questions. Number 1, how did you find out about the program? And number 2, why did you choose to participate? So we'll answer those questions sort of one by one. I'll start, Jamie, with you, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. I remember I was in one of those really long, painful Zoom sessions with my music teachers, one of my music classes that I was taking. And at the beginning, just as a side note, he was introducing you guys, the things you guys are doing. He told the entire class about the program, and that immediately jumped out as something I wanted to be a part of. I always love opportunities to share my music, and especially when there's a cash prize attached to it. That was a really cool opportunity to feel special, to feel like there's an opportunity for me to sort of be rewarded for my work, which is something that's pretty rare in this space. So that was a massive thing for me, and it was a no-brainer to submit, especially since it was quick, it was pretty easy, it was free. So yeah, that was my experience with getting started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. Jess, Naeli, same question. When did you learn? Why did you decide to go about this?
All right, yeah. Okay, so I heard through this program through my program teacher, because I'm part of Zoom Mix classes, and I was taking a songwriting class with my teacher, Corey. He told me like, hey, well, he reached out to like multiple people in the class. He told the class, a lot of people knew. Practically Zoom Mix reached out and they're like, hey, there's a cool opportunity. You can submit your music. And at the time I was just finishing up the song. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect time to apply. And let's see, the reason, it's kind of similar to what Jamie said about, first off, I think it's super cool that there was this opportunity, like free, and also like, it's just you submit and see what happens. Either you could win something or either you don't. So it's pretty like nice to like possibly win something. And also just out of curiosity, like, let's see what happens.
Very cool. And then I am going to ask, so our other 2 teen panelists are a duo themselves, Mzaria and Marcia. I'm going to start with Mzaria. What's your answer to this question? And then Marcia, if you have like anything to add on to Mzaria in terms of, we'll kind of go at it that way. Go ahead.
So I know I actually found out about this program through my mom. And she was just like, it's an awesome opportunity. And I don't know many teens that do music that are in the arts. So being able to like listen to other people's like artistic views on things and their music and their creativity, like that was really the exciting part for me, because I don't know many teens in my area that do what I do. So that was really exciting. And I remember like talking to Marcia about it. We were both excited to do it. And my mom didn't even tell me there was going to be a reward or anything. Like I was just really excited to be a part of the opportunity. And then at the end, I found out, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool too. So yeah.
Yeah, and to just add on to that, I think, so I found out through my dad, because we're a duo, our parents kind of co-manage, but he told me about the opportunity. And I think for me, I was really excited solely because I feel like it's so great to find like really big opportunities in Boston, because I feel like, finding things that you can do in your neighborhood is so like important, because it all starts with where you come from. So I feel like being able to be a part of this, get connected with the Boston Public Library, being born and raised in Boston, I thought that was really awesome. Once again, I didn't know that there was a cash prize. Me and MJ, we watched the whole event together, and towards the end when we found out that we had won, we were like, oh, there's a cash prize. Like, so that was a bonus, of course, because, you know, who turns that down? But at first we didn't know. And I just think I was really just happy to have the opportunity to do something in my neighborhood with other people.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I think I'll parlay that into maybe a deeper question. And it's so, first of all, let me give a shout out to parents and teachers, because it certainly seems like that's what brought you guys to the BPL TWHT crossover, which is super terrific. I'm sure, you know, some of our promotion reached them in some capacity, but at the same time, like, shout out to all of those parents, mentors, and teachers who are creating this, you know, awareness and helping get the word out. I'm curious though, just for you guys all as artists, you know, you are young, and in many ways, like, you know, society puts you in a position to feel like, you know, like you're developing, and that you're not necessarily in a space where you can be achieving. And there are so many things, you know, that sort of, I think, say to teens these days, like, let's draw a limit on what you can do. Let's, you know, limit your exposure. Let's limit your, you know, ability to conceive of yourself, you know, as somebody who can do things, right? Like, you have to be this tall, this old, this to, you know, kind of participate in a lot of ways. And I'm curious, you know, you guys are, to everybody that has come across any of your music, the big sort of, the major element has always been the surprise of, oh my goodness, so developed. We even saw in that sort of brief intro video, Red talking specifically about just how developed all of your sounds were. She wasn't the only one, certainly. How, and we'll start with you, Marcia. Where did this music bug start with you? Was it, you know, how did you get involved in music? Have you always been an artist at heart? Can you give us a little bit of that backstory? And just as a warning, I'm going to ask everybody this on the panel.
Sure. So for me, I've always grew up around music. I think I come from a very musical family. My dad's a piano player, my mom's a singer. Both of my younger brothers are kind of involved. And I think for me, something that made music stick with me is the fact that it was never something that was forced. I feel like you were saying, how as a teenager, there's just so many kind of standards and limitations on what you need to do, what you need to be, what you can and can't do. And I feel like it made it so much easier and more enjoyable for me that it wasn't forced. And I didn't have any limits. My family personally, they didn't put limits on what I wanted to do musically, and well, academically too, of course, but musically as of right now. And I just think that was really the kind of thing that made it so easy for me to stick with music from the young age and to now. So
thank you. We'll go to Mzaria.
Well, I grew up, I'm a studio baby, so I grew up in a studio. My mom, we had like an in-home studio, so like people would come over, a whole bunch of artists would come over and record. So I grew up on that and always watching her like write and do poetry. And so I always gravitated towards that all my life. And I also come up from a musical background. It's my mom, she's musical, my dad, he's musical. So I've always just had music in my life, and I used to dance. And I think that's when I really got connected to music, because I really was feeling the music. And music for me kind of became an outlet. Like whenever I was upset or whenever I was down, I would put some music on or write. And so that's kind of how music always like just stuck in my life. And still to this day, like I just think it's very, what's the word? It's very refreshing to listen to music and to create music. So yeah.
Very cool. I'll go to Jess next.
So again, just addressing like where like this whole music sort of thing stemmed from, Chris. Yeah. Well, let's see. I've always had an interest in singing. I've always like sang around. I can't necessarily say my parents had a musical background, but it's always been an interest of mine. And I really connect to what was just said right now, that music has always been like an outlet. Oh, I'm feeling upset, I'm gonna go listen to music. Oh, I'm gonna literally watch this, I'm gonna put on music. So music is always just this thing that's always there. And I've always admired music and the way that people like just the creation of it. So let's see, I got more connected to music when I started taking classes in Zoom Mix, just supporting me vocally, like vocal wise and songwriting wise. And then from there, just like having like being surrounded by people that like really support you, especially what you like, was big for me. So music has always been there. Like I've always sung at home, and I started taking it more seriously like about like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Very cool. Thanks, Jess. And last but not least, Jamie.
Yeah, so I think it's a common theme with these guys. Family is a big part of music. I think that my parents introduced me to a lot of things young. They had me playing the violin when I was small. I think that was, although that created sort of conflict for me, because for a long time I associated music with the sort of hardship of having to get up and practice violin, which I was never too into. So there's a period in my life where I never really thought of myself as a creator of music, but I was always listening to music, of course, introduced by my parents and just through discovery. And then in middle school, I sort of got into musical theater, and that sort of introduced to me that I could sing, and that was a viable option and how fun it was. So even though I'm not really in that theater environment anymore, I think it really brought out a part of me that's stuck now. And I met people through theater who are able to branch out and help me produce songs that are probably not part of the theater genre. So people who really inspire me and are really helpful in the creation process. So that's a summary of my story.
Awesome. I mean, you guys did a great job giving us a 2-minute summary of your entire musical lives. So thank you guys for that. Certainly seems like community is a running trend, and having sort of like some level of immersion as part of sort of what helps create artistry. And it kind of helps, I think part of the reason that we're having this event is to sort of help institutions like ours really understand like what it takes to help teen artists develop in a number of different ways. Sounds like you guys, well, it's very clear that you guys were already developed artists while while arriving at this event. But it's always good to hear sort of where that stems from. And I wonder for, a teen that doesn't necessarily have that resource of family and community, how we as a public library, help direct young people, young budding artists to community organizations like TWH, like ZoomX, and sort of having a finger on the pulse of sort of what music in the community looks like and does has been really eye-opening to how we do that and how we function as a library system. So thank you guys for helping with that. I do want to remind, just in general, if you are watching, we do have a Q&A session or section of the Zoom call. And if you have any questions for any and all of our panelists, you can go ahead and feed those questions in there, and we'll try to answer them by the end of the session. At this time, I'm going to probably volley it back to you, David, just to focus a little bit more on the logistical side of things and maybe what the challenges were in getting this event off the ground. We obviously have these great teams and they were very ready, but how did we get there?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Great discussion so far. And a couple of these questions will be both for our adult and teen participants. So don't think you're getting off the hook by Chris throwing it back to me on this one. I'd kind of like to ask the question, how easy was it to put this together? And how easy or difficult was it to put it together as a program? And then how easy or difficult was it to participate? Because it was online, did that make it easy? I think I heard someone say, you could just throw your music in and see what happens. So why don't we start with Red and David on the TWHT side? How easy or difficult was it to do this?
Yeah, I think again, the whole event planning with this taught me a lot of things. I was like, wow, this is a lot of work, because you have to be very meticulous about this. Is for, we made it so that it was easy for participants to apply, but on the back end there were a lot of guidelines we had to adhere to. We we did spend a good amount of time figuring out how to get it to our target audience, which were the teens. And luckily, a lot of parents probably saw our posts and then told the kids, but then we were also like, okay, a lot of us are also educators in whether it's a teen program or a school. So we were like, let's just say it in the middle of class. Let's, get an article. Let's talk about it on the radio. So there was a lot of planning around how to get it out, because we were like, we have this great idea, but where are the teens at actually? Because I remember I was like, yeah, we know we have ours in this program, but where's everybody else? Especially since we, changed it to statewide. So.
Yeah, and we were doing this in the middle of COVID, where people couldn't just drop by programs or show up in person. So all of the challenges of getting the word out, and you're reliant on word of mouth and some of the tech channels. David?
Yeah, I mean, I had it somewhat easy because we have master coordinator Shaydez. I'm on TWHT side of things, and master coordinator Chris on your side of things. So it was a little bit like, all right, cool, y'all both got it. But it was I think a lot of the logistics, like everything we've been already talking about, were very like kind of minor things, but important, which is like, how do you create wording that's gonna entice teens and not be like, all right, cool, this is just a bunch of old people trying to do like a competition, because like, who wants to be a part of that, right? So it was like really important that we like figured out, how do we want to call this showcase? How do we want to like invite everybody? Like, are we gonna say like all America? Are we gonna say whatever it might be? Like, it was just a lot of like those little conversations, and I think that was kind of like what our meetings were. But like, to what everybody was saying, I think kind of like one of the hardest pieces is like, word of mouth gets spread in school. It gets spread in like the halls. It gets spread in like when you're going, I don't know, like, do y'all even go to the water fountain? That's a thing that still exists, right? So like those little pieces of conversation is like, that's when news gets spread. And like, when you're like walking down the hall, you get to play your music to your friends, but you miss out on that opportunity when it's virtual, But something that I found really cool, and then I'll stop talking, is I also work for the ICA's audio music program. So I would like go in when I would teach those classes virtually, I would tell them about it. And sort of what I found over a while is that one of the teens who had submitted had actually like met another person on Discord that was not in their school. And they actually just started like collaborating. They collaborated on one of the tracks that they submitted, and they actively still collaborate now. And after this competition, when we would have ICA classes, they would always share the music that they were working on with that person. And it would be like this whole relationship that was built virtually, 100% virtually through Discord and through, so I don't know, I just thought it was really dope. But yeah, logistically, Shaydez and Chris, Ritse, Bree, very, very dope. Always a pleasure to work with.
Yeah, because
we're a lot easier and a lot of fun to sort of.
We're hearing directly from 4 of the participants, but there was a whole bigger group of people that were, submitted music and watched or participated or came to sessions. And so is there now a whole network of teens out there that's part of this music community?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, we've had a couple of opportunities. We wanted to make sure that everybody, these top 3 winners, we gave them the cash prize. We wanted to make sure that, there was something special done for them. And so we had the award celebration really focus on, of the judging, who got those, who got the prizes, but also who, stood out. But we wanted to make sure that all of the teens involved were honored in some way. And so we created a few opportunities to, kind of create touch points and communications with the teens, and really wanted to make sure that they knew that like they, we wanted them to stay involved. And we viewed them as both patrons of the library and honorary. I won't speak for TWHT and say that they're honorary members, but I wouldn't say that was necessarily incorrect either. Once you're a part of something like this, we wanted to make them feel special. We got them branded masks from TWHT. We got them, actually, do I have it? I'm going to show this off because you know what? Doing it. These little USB keys to store their music on that were branded, to make sure that they felt like this was something that brought them together. And like Ritse was saying earlier, when you were actually sitting, a lot of what you didn't see in the trailer we showed was just, especially when a teen's track would come on, just the stream of compliments from all of compliments mostly in the form of emotes and emojis, but still compliments nonetheless, of all these teens that, were discovering each other, and you felt that real excitement sort of palpably. And it was part of the elation that Ritse was describing, and the euphoric feeling was not just, being an adult in the midst of that and thinking like, oh, wow, for the first time, I really feel like I'm running a teen event again. Part of it was just that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm swimming in like creative genius right now. And like, there's so much respect and admiration being thrown about. And it's like, number one, this is what we wanted, right? But number two, this is what they, meaning the teens who are here and the teens, who didn't make the top 10, this is what they all deserve.
Yeah. Turning to our teen participants, I mean, what was it like to participate? Was it easy or difficult? Was it something you looked forward to? Tell me what the experience was like. And Jess, can we start with you and then go to Jamie and then go to the others?
Yeah, okay. So actually, yeah, it kind of connects to what you kind of mentioned, that it was kind of quick. So I knew about the opportunity like possibly a month before, but I ended submitting it like almost a week before the deadline, because I was like, I have time to. So it was kind of like a no pressure thing. It was like, hey, it's this cool opportunity and you could apply. I think Jamie had mentioned it, where it's like you literally just send your audio and that was it. So it was a pretty simple process to apply. And yeah, it was kind of like you either win or you lose, or like even if you don't necessarily get into the top 3, just like overall, like the process was easy. And it was like I mentioned before, it's kind of like a why not sort of thing. So it was pretty easy to do.
Cool. Jamie, for you?
Yeah, I was definitely planning my submission in advance, but as soon as it opened, I just sent that email, and it was really easy from there. There's not much to say for that. It was perfect. And I love that sort of no pressure environment. As lots of people have said, you win, you lose. There's no one telling you that, hey, music's not for you. It's definitely that telling you that you got to keep striving no matter what. And for the folks who placed top 3, I mean, it felt great at the end, but it never felt like that was the end all or be all. It's all about looking forward and how we're going to move forward and really work together, which is really cool.
Zaria and Marcia? Or Marcia first? Have you together? Great.
Want to go first, or
Somebody goes first.
I'll go first. I think for me, definitely because we are a duo. We found the information, and I think we both were just kind of thinking like, okay, what song do we want to choose? And we chose the song, and I think we both kind of agreed that the reason we chose the song we chose was just like, this is a positive message, and we definitely want as many people to know about it as we can. So I think that's kind of how it was for me, just getting the information, preparing what we wanted to share, and going with it.
Yeah.
First time you just said it all. That's literally what I'm thinking.
And I was intrigued to learn that you didn't know there was a prize until much later. So for you, it was, well, let's just participate and see what happens.
Yeah. That's literally how it was. And Marcia. Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. We didn't know there was a prize. And then at the end, we're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, that's kind of dope. We love money. So it was just like, yeah. And when we found out we were like in first place, we were like so excited. My mom was like screaming, her mom was like screaming. It's like so cool. It was a really cool experience. And I really enjoyed like listening to everybody else's stuff. But that really was like the best part of the whole thing for me, because I love seeing other like people just do their thing.
And I think someone said earlier that bringing this sense of community among teen artists, at least able to see what other people were doing, whether you actually know them or not, is kind of one of the benefits that occurred. But before I leave you and go back to Nayeli and Jamie, who did you tell when you were listed as one of the winners? And did you tell friends and family?
So we were together when we were like watching the whole event. And so when we found out we were first place, my mom was watching and she was in the car with my dad driving home. So then she called me and like she just starts screaming on the phone, like she's like screaming at the top of her lungs, like, oh my gosh, you guys won. And then MD's mom had kind of sent a text in the group chat. We have like a nice group chat with everybody. And I think it was a heartwarming feeling because I think we kind of had that before, even before finding out that there was a cash prize. So I think it was just so heartwarming knowing that we submitted something, a lot of people liked it, getting constructive criticism and hearing everybody's opinions on it from so many amazing and talented panelists. So I think it was just really nice being able to have so many people, you know, like the song and then have my family react to us winning. It was really nice.
Kind of to piggyback off what Marcia said, like it was just an awesome experience. My mom came over later that day and she started screaming, and me and Marcia, like we're kind of like nonchalant people, but like on the inside we're like excited. So when we were together, I think that's when we like let out our emotions about it. And then when we got around our parents, we weren't like as excited. And I definitely did tell like some of my other friends and they were like, wow, like that's so cool and dope. So our parents were like, why aren't you guys like screaming for joy? But like before they even got inside the house, like we already like did that. So then when they got home, they were like, what's going on with you guys? This is so big.
And just turning back to Jamie and then to Nayeli, I mean, you're winners too. You're all in the top 3.
Yeah, the way they presented it was super cool. Watching the sort of brief summaries of the songs as it went into who did it. So sort of really nerve-wracking, but also another was really entertaining. I was watching it with a couple of friends who were on Zoom with me. So every time they said some descriptors, they're like, does that match up with me? Who knows? And then when they eventually got there, it felt really great to hear all this feedback for the song without really knowing it was for me, because they're like, yeah, those are good points. And then you hear the song start playing. That was a really cool experience.
I really feel the nerve-wracking thing about, because like you hear all the songs, like, oh, we're hearing this, like everyone, I just want to give shout out to everyone that really submitted, because everyone was so amazing. So just imagine hearing all these songs, everyone is hyping everyone up. It's such a positive like environment. And they were like, wait, but they haven't played my song yet. And it's kind of like this little feeling of like excitement of like what could happen. Unless the first person that knew was in the chat was actually the producer for my song, Jalen, J Makes Beats, also mix master, shout out to him. So he was the first person that knew. And then I like told a couple friends like, hey, remember that thing I told you I was gonna submit for? And it was just kind of like a really like positive response.
Really cool. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to turn back to Tony and Ritse and ask them about the program and what was it like to produce this and to bring it all together. Was yeah. So just take that if you would.
I guess I could start out on that. I would say, similar to what people were saying earlier, as far as the organizing and communicating, definitely a lot of work and a lot of learning curves to get through, bringing together these different styles. But one thing that was kind of it's hard to call it a benefit because it comes from the pandemic itself, but honestly, it was, I think, easier to schedule things than it would have been otherwise, because we had so many things that we weren't able to do. Like so much of our other programming had to be trimmed down and reduced. And it honestly kind of gave us more time to devote to this and to get together and have these, 2-3 hour long sometimes discussions about how we were going to make this Instagram push or how we were going to put together this promotional video. Being able to really dig in like that, because there were fewer demands coming from other parts of our work, was something of a benefit, kind of a double-edged sword, being a result of the whole quarantine situation. But it was interesting how that worked out.
Hey, we'll call it a silver lining. I mean, it may have been a terrible cloud, but doesn't mean it can't have a silver lining. And maybe there are good things that can come out of the last 15 months, such as this, that we can keep doing. Tony, your thoughts?
I think this is absolutely a good thing that came out of the last 15 months. It was, I'm sure Chris and Shaydez had a different experience behind the scenes putting this all together, but from my perspective, it went so smoothly between the songs being uploaded to the private YouTube for us to listen to the online Google Sheets or whatever that we filled out, and we chose the winners and whatnot. Everything was just so well organized, and yeah, it went off without a hitch, honestly. Everything from the actual event itself with all the cool graphics and the run of show, and everything just went kind of as it was supposed to. And as a person that works in a lot of like media and the arts, that rarely ever happens. So I was, again, pleasantly surprised with how well it went down.
Well, maybe it's partially Shaydez' rule of keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. That paid off in the long run. Chris, I think you said that the program is really still ongoing because there's still activities happening, and I think we wanted to ask people about what next and what's still going on. So we want to lead us through the next question, and then I got one I want to end with after the next section.
Absolutely. And I do just want to quickly shout out, Tony and a bunch of other representatives from Zoomix and ICA who are outside of BPL, outside of TWHT, gave of their own time and sort of, joined us as volunteers in many ways. And I got to say, as one of the, people coordinating behind the scenes, part of, once the submissions really started rolling in the week before, that things took off on the week before the contest submission deadline happened. It really became about making sure that things, the exacting nature of sort of how we approached every little nook and cranny, as Lightfoot was saying, as David was saying, really was because we wanted to, again, honor everybody involved, both the adults who had given up their time, the adults who were working, at other organizations simultaneously, of course, the people who were working hard at BPL, and absolutely the teens. And I think that it was that they fed into each other, right? The quality of the event fed into the quality of all of the attendees, and then back again. So I got to say, there was a circuit there that I think really relied on everybody pushing on this, or rowing on the same boat, if that makes any sense. But to David's point, to your point, David, we did, in fact, we do still have threads of this program in process, as Ritse had identified at the beginning. Part of what Jess, Jamie, Zaria, and Marcia earned as a result of their participation and their victory, as it were, in the program, is the opportunity to create more art via commission, as not necessarily for the Boston Public Library or for TWHT, but really for themselves as artists. And of course, we showcase it, not unlike their existing artistry. And so one of the things that we wanted to sort of ask you guys, this is of course to the teens themselves, is, I know the answer to some of this, but how is that process going? How did you feel about the commission at the beginning? Where do you stand now with regards to the commission? And can you give us any sneak previews as to what we might be hearing soon? Because I know that once we get them, we're going to be putting them on our YouTube. We're going to be putting basically them on as much positive blast as possible. But Jamie, I'll start with you. Can you give us any updates as to this commission? And just so everybody knows, this is a paid opportunity. We wanted to make sure that teen artists had an additional way of earning money that they deserve as a result of their effort and artistry. So go ahead, Jamie. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm not far enough along to give any sneak previews, but I can talk about this process. I think it's really exciting when I first got that email that I'd had the opportunity to make music with new people, especially. I feel like lots of the time, especially on the internet, it seems sort of pay to play. Like you have to put money in to get a product out. But the fact that I was able to be connected with a really, really great producer who's helping me along with this process, and that there'd be a reward at the end of it, that was an incredible moment for me. And also gives me something to do this summer, which is always appreciated.
And just to clarify that, one of the things that actually emerged from this is I think he was the number 5 spot in our top 10. His name is Calder. One of the things that we were able to do is actually offer, thanks to the work of our youth services director, offer additional commissions beyond the top 3. And one of the top 5 was actually an audio producer who ended up volunteering his efforts and is working now with Jamie to kind of coordinate a track together. So in fact, the results, and no pressure, Jamie, but whenever it happens, it's going to be, I think, doubly amazing because it's going to be the results of 2 really, really great artists collaborating, which is awesome. Jess, I'm going to bring the question to you. Again, I know the updates, but do you want to tell the world where you are with this commission?
Yeah, okay. So I'm sort of almost done. Let's say, so like I'm probably adding some final touches. Let's see, I guess the sneak peek I could give you is that I have some Spanish in it. So it's some nice kind of letting go summer vibes, hopefully out before the summer ends, which is the goal. I'm also collaborating again with the producer who made my other song, Jalen, J-Mix Beats. And it's been a pretty sort of easy process so far since we worked with each other before. We usually think of an idea. I'm like, hey, I like this sound. We work on the sound together. And then from there, I songwrite, record vocals, then we work on it together through Zoom. So it's been a whole process, but it's all coming nice together. It's all coming nicely together.
Awesome. Seriously, can't wait for any of this. I will not stop smiling. Zaria, I'm going to go to you next. Do you want to talk about where you guys are at?
So me and Marcia, right now, we just solidified like what we're gonna do for the instrumental, like what is gonna be the music behind our words. So we just figured that out. So we're glad that we have that out of the way. Me and my mom, Marcia, we've been all just like coming up with like really nice ideas, different words. We really want to be creative with this, and this piece is gonna be about being free and being yourself. And I think that that'll be something good to add to the library, just because you just want to be free. If you want to read a book, if you want to dance, if you want to sing, just be free, just be yourself. So that's kind of the idea of what this piece is going to be about. And I'll let Marcia take the rest.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I'm really happy with kind of what we have so far in terms of music. I think it definitely fits into kind of the theme that we both agreed on of just being free and just allowing things to go, as how you want it to go, to as far of an extent as you can, because at the end of the day we can't plan everything, but to just be free in what you love to do without limitation, without standards as young people. I see how I kind of connected that to what we have going on during this panel. But yeah, I can't wait for everybody to hear it, and I can't wait to hear all of the other young artists' music, and I'm really just excited to see how this is gonna go. But yeah, more coming soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. David, I know you had a last question just in mind. Is now a good time to sort of transition?
I think so, because I'd like to hear from everybody, like all 8 or 9 of you. On this one, and we can spend a few minutes closing out after that. And it's the question is really, what's the highlight of participating in the program? Whether you are putting it together, whether you are hosting it, whether you are participating in it, it can be a highlight or something memorable. And it may be something that you haven't shared with anybody else on the team yet, or so I leave it to each of you to share the one thing that that stands out from you as you look back on your time in this program so far. And I'm going to go to our three partner collaborators first, and then I'm going to go to the teens, and then I'll finish with our BPL folks, Tony, Chris, and Ritse. So Shaydez, David, can I start with you on the one memorable moment that you want to pick from to share with us to close out today?
Yeah, sure. The highlight for me was the actual day of the event and seeing all the engagement in the chat from the teens, from the parents. Like Jamie also mentioned, the graphics and how the winners were presented. I think that was a big game changer for me because I felt like I was in an award show, like I was at an award show, and the way there was like, I believe there were like sound bites of audiences clapping, and they were just, we got amp about it, so the audience got amp about it, and it was just so much fun. And I remember going back and forth on Discord and talking about how lit and fire emojis that it was in the chat. So that was a great moment for me, and I left the event like just feeling, content and accomplished and just proud of all of their work and how hard that they must have worked to get those like submissions to us. So that was a highlight for me.
Thank you, David.
I'm going to echo that just so that I can do another one because I have a second highlight, but I just want to quickly say that was so true. And I remember actually leaving the final showcase and being like bummed when it was over, like, oh, I'm right, I'm back. I'm like, I can't leave my apartment. That's this is awesome. Anyway, but yeah, it was really beautiful to see so many young people kill it. But I wanted to say one thing that I thought was really kind of, I don't know, maybe it was funny, but our TWHT participants, our young people, they're cocky, they were like, yo, we're about to handle this competition. And they came through and they heard all this incredible music from so many young people, a lot of whom they'd never even heard of or met before. And like being able to step outside your bubble is so important, especially as a young person, but even more, especially as an artist, right? And just to go back on like what you're able to like do virtually that you can't necessarily do in person. That's something that we probably wouldn't have been able to do outside of a virtual setting. And I just thought it was really cool being able to see our teams, even if we weren't actually able to actually see them, but like communicate with them and then be like, oh, wow, yeah, we got to step our game up. And I hope that was the case with a lot of other young people being like, yo, there's like mad talented musicians in our state. And that must feel really good. So that's my highlight.
Thanks. I'm going to turn to our teens next, and I'm going to go in the order of, which is the reverse order on my sheet. Jamie first, Jess, and then Marcia and Mzaria. So Jamie, a highlight or memorable moment that stands out to you?
Well, I think I already mentioned it a little bit, but that final presentation, that final day was so incredible. And one thing I didn't mention, well, I started to mention, was the way it was announced and how we were going through, and the people kept being like, oh, this next song is a really uplifting song, or this next song is a song to make you want to dance, or something like that. And I was like, oh, that doesn't really describe myself. And being with this community and having that moment with all these people that never really met before, but now I feel really close to because we all experienced this thing, and how we're going to stick together in the future, and how there are all these opportunities coming forward. All that was a highlight. It's hard to pick one. It's just such an incredible experience.
Thanks, Jamie. And to Jess, Nayeli.
Yeah, okay, so definitely the day of was super exciting. It was kind of like, okay, let's figure out what really happened. I think also another highlight really was like being given this platform to actually be taken seriously. Like just first off, just like even if I didn't win or not, like I literally have the opportunity to like have my art considered and it be taken seriously. So I just think that was a big deal in itself, just being able to be taken seriously, and then also hearing everyone's sound in the day of, which was super exciting.
Thank you. And now to Marcia.
A highlight for me was definitely just getting so much information on all the other artists in Boston, because I think like somebody previously had said that like they feel like, I think it was MZ. MZ had said that she just feels like she doesn't know many other artists in Boston in her community. And I think it was just so nice to have the experience of seeing and hearing other music, taking the time to go and find their Instagrams, follow them, spread support, kind of build, you know, a sense of community. So I think that was definitely my highlight, finding so many new people and hearing so many new songs and other music.
Great. Thank you. MZ, Emzaria?
Definitely everything that everybody said just now is everything that I was thinking. Also, just to feel connected with people my age in that way, I think it was very inspiring. I think the whole moment, the whole experience was really uplifting. And I like to be a part of settings like that, especially when it's around like other people, like my mutuals, like other people my age, because it's really inspiring and it's really fun when you get to like connect to people on that level and grow something bigger. And I was really grateful that I was able to hit some other people up and talk to them like, oh, so this is what you do, and really just like connect with them on that level. I think I really enjoyed that since I don't get that on a daily basis. So this was an awesome opportunity for that.
Thank you. And now we'll go back to Tony, who I'm counting as part of the BPL segment in this category. Tony, your highlight, your memorable moment?
My highlight is a bit meta, I would say. My highlight was seeing this like climax of where the BPL like teen music program has gone, and starting out like years ago with like music being an after school, like 2 hours on a Friday type of deal, to, hey, here's a state level competition for music makers. And that was incredible to me, to see the growth in the music program and to be a part of it.
Thank you. And as promised, I'm giving Ritse and Chris the opportunity to close out this segment. Ritse, a memorable moment or highlight for you?
Yeah, well, like a lot of folks have said, and comes up a lot because of how memorable it was. The finale was huge, but just to add another one, I would say really the experience of listening to all these submissions for the first time, especially since, as we talked a little bit about, we had one of the struggles was the communication piece, especially, you know, the teams we have here have talked about how promptly and, you know, very intentionally they submitted their works, which was great. I will say that was not the norm. So getting the submissions was a bit of work. And there was a point when we were, you know, a little nervous about how many we would actually see. But when they all did finally come in, that was a great feeling, having all that music and just listening to all of it and hearing how great so much of it was so inspiring to know how many amazing young musicians are really out there in our community.
Thank you. And Chris, you're a program coordinator as much as a host today. Your thought on a memorable moment or highlight?
Sure. So I'll steal a few, probably actually close to about 50 moments, which is every time. So I was managing the mailbox where the submissions would come in for the first time. And I think what was really incredible was to see the sheer amount of diversity among those entries and all of the panelists. And frankly, you know, now that the playlists are open to the public, anybody who wants to know just what I'm talking about absolutely can know, which is great unto itself. But just knowing that we had so many different genres of music represented. And I think to go one step farther, you know, I remember, you know, I think it's the fault of the name, the hip hop transformation. I remember confessing to Red and David at one point that, you know, I was concerned, right, that, you know, given the preponderance of, you know, hip hop creators in their institution, that, you know, there was going to be maybe an inherent or implicit bias that favored hip hop music. And although there was plenty of hip hop representation among our entries and hip hop influences throughout, you know, many of the tracks, not only were the tracks themselves diverse, but the judging itself proved that there was room for all of this diversity in the music maker scene, specifically the teen music maker scene in Massachusetts at BPL, in the hip hop transformation. And it was really nice to see everybody, the artists, the panelists, or the judges, the hosts, just on the same page about that. If you look at our entire top 10, you know, we've got 4, 5, 6 different, I mean, it's really hard to categorize even some of the genres, but they are so very different. And that was just a real pleasure because, again, we always strive to, you know, embody, you know, inclusion and diversity in everything that we do. And it was just so nice to see that the actual composition of the artists that ended up gravitating towards us were, you know, did in fact reflect the diversity of the talent that we know is out there.
Thank you, Chris. And just to end my segment, and I know you have a few notes to tell us where we can get more information, and also you're going to introduce the clips that we're going to play out with in a moment. But from myself, David Leonard, president of the Boston Public Library, it's been a privilege to share this 90-minute session with all of you. Thank you for those working behind the scenes to put this program together today. Thank you to our collaborators who put the program together. Thank you to all of the participants in the Music Maker Perspective and the Music Maker Showdown. And we look forward to the next iteration and to our 3 winners. One of them is a duo. So to our 4 participants, congratulations. Thank you for being part of today. And please be part of our community as we go forward. Chris, over to you to close us out.
All right, absolutely. I was just getting that link to the entire, actually, I think I just posted the link to our YouTube channel. You can find all of the tracks there. You'll also find a couple of playlists, one specifically our top 10 playlist, but one with all of the submissions. All of them are correctly attributed. And obviously, that's where you can go to find out more about some of these artists. We're gonna play you out today, those of you who are watching, with probably a medley. I don't know exactly what Amanda's prepared, but a medley of those top 3 tracks. So we might switch among them. And I don't know exactly what order they're going to go in, but we're going to play you out with these winning tracks so that you don't have to necessarily go to our YouTube. But I'll just echo everything, David, that you've said. Thank you again for coming and hosting and shining a light on these amazing teens, these incredible adults who just magnanimously support teens and youth in their artistry. And I just got to say, as the producer who was sweating behind a lot of the cool content that you guys were seeing, I got to say it was absolutely everybody here that was the reason that it went off so well. So thank you.
If you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. Self-love is the best love. It's the best, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best. If you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. Self-love is the best love. It's the best, it's the best in the east and the west. Never ever stop me, you will never ever top me. I will never let you stop my movement, no. Never ever stop me, you will never ever top me. I will never let you stop my movement, no. I am the greatest, I am amazing, I am a legend. Brown skin's a blessing, blessing. Come join the quest in love. I am the greatest, I am amazing, I am a legend. Brown skin's a blessing, blessing. Come join the quest in love. Moving on, moving on. Can't take me down, take me down. Moving on, can't take me down. Moving on, moving on. Can't take me down, take me down. Moving on, can't take me down. You couldn't take me down if you wanted to. Cause even when I'm down, my self-love is full. I'm really good, sometimes misunderstood. My heart has seen it all, can't knock me cause I'm strong. My mind is marvelous, confidence is my countenance, keeping me right on top of it. You best believe I'll never quit. And when it's tough, I remember what I made of. I'm a queen, best believe I got a whole lot of self-love. If you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. Self-love is the best love. If you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. Self-love is the best love. Showing up in my full splendor, shining under pressure, all to become a diamond. Showing up in my drive, no ignition, making my fairy tales realistic fiction. One day at a time in infinity, where I believe in possibility. Taking steps to learn to let it breathe, let it be. One day at a time, oh, one day at a time. I'm on that low key shining, on that low key finding what's for me, you can't take from me. I live life abundantly. On that low key finding collapsing stars that come in the sky. I can't fall apart, no, I can't fall apart, no. You can cut my wings, I still rise above, God guided. I can fly above, oh. You can burn my garden, I'm still bloom. You can cut through flowers, I'm still laying the roots, oh. This is a pick you up, this is a pick me up. There's winning in the delay, please stand up. How can you not, how can we not? One day at a time in infinity, I wish you could.
just can't look away. And I
but it hurts to say I never looked beyond the times that we shared. I never stopped to remember that life, it just ain't fair. Follow your heart to the end of the line, and when it starts to break, I was spending every day running through your memory. Thoughts of you were on replay, and all the things I meant to say. I was so hung up on you, but I kept on pushing through. 'Cause there's one thing that I knew, love will come again. And when you left me for whoever you did, you got me wondering, was he stronger, taller, a better man than me? Girl, I treated you like royalty, 'cause you were a queen to me. No, but my heart, it was played upon in your game, 'cause you threw it all away. I was spending every day running through your memory. Thoughts of you were on replay, and all the things I meant to say. I was so hung up on you, but I kept on pushing through. 'Cause there's one thing that I knew, love will come again. And when it does, are you ready to open up your heart and start again? 'Cause you gotta give it time till the girl will say you're mine. When you find it, I hope she never lets you go again. Go again. Go again.